Stop it. Look at the screen, sir.
Yes.
That's you shooting him?
Yes.
And you admit that you shot him in cold blood?
Yes.
That is footage of Abram being prosecuted in South Haven, Mississippi on 2 counts of murder. Abram reportedly worked as a grocery store clerk at Walmart for 20 years before receiving a suspension for showing a fellow worker a knife he was carrying during a shift. Following his suspension, Abram returned to work brandishing several firearms, then opened fire, killing the 2 managers who were on duty, Anthony Brown and Brandon Gales. He then tried to escape. On his way out, however, he encountered an officer whom he shot as well, but who survived because of his bulletproof vest. Abram was made to watch the video of his killings in court.
Yes.
Look at it, please, sir.
Yes.
All right, proceed. Stop. Mr. Gale is on the floor going down to this point, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay, and that's you shooting him, right?
Yes.
Okay.
At first, he admitted to all of his crimes. However, he shortly was seen to backpedal, saying that he had no memory of that day.
I remember running in. I remember that. And I remember running out. But it had got to a point to where I was scared that somebody was that I was going to get hurt.
Let's now see the judge give Abram his sentence.
In count 1, I will sentence you to death. Count 2 will be sentenced to death.
Abram's behavior in court was erratic, but nothing like that of Markeith Loyd. Let me introduce you to Markeith Loyd.
I'm in a relationship for somebody I have absolutely don't know nothing about, and they frame me.
This footage shows Markeith being charged with murder in Florida. At the time of the incident, Loyd was serving a life sentence for the death of his pregnant ex-girlfriend, Sadie Dixon. As a result, Markeith was wanted for her murder and on the run when he was spotted on January 9th, 2017 by a Walmart customer.
Lieutenant Deborah Clayton. Loyd, you see here, walked in the door at 6:45 on the dot. And then 15 minutes later, you saw Lieutenant Deborah Clayton walk in. They both began shopping, crossing paths a couple of times, unsuspecting of what would come.
Lieutenant Deborah Clayton attempted to stop him, but Loyd shot and murdered her in a shootout outside the shop. Loyd fled the scene of the shooting and was tracked by the police 9 days later, but he was not going to give up easily, even losing his left eye during a confrontation with the cops. In addition, Loyd said that he was kicked and beaten by police while they were on a manhunt for Clayton's killer, which left him with brain damage. Loyd's sentencing hearing was thus postponed because of worries about his mental state. He testified throughout the trial that he shot Clayton in self-defense and that he was insane at the time. But the judge ruled him competent to proceed with the sentencing hearing. As if his misdeeds weren't terrible enough, Loyd's court behavior will shock you even more.
Correct? Mr. Loyd, watch your tone and the way you speak. Out. Out.
Loyd stated during the trial that he shot Clayton out of self-defense. Additionally, he had stated that he shot Dixon and her brother in self-defense 1 month before Clayton's death. He maintained that he didn't mean to kill anyone and that he was only reacting.
I was just reacting. Even when they opened the door, I just reacted. I fired 2 shots, I just reacted.
Loyd was sentenced to death for 5 charges, including first-degree murder of a police officer, attempted first-degree murder, aggravated assault, carjacking with a firearm, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. The sentence was handed down by the Ninth Circuit Judge Latrice Marquez nearly 3 months after a jury recommended the death penalty.
We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Markeith Loyd, should be sentenced to death.
Loyd became irrationally angry after receiving a life sentence for his crimes.
You've been trying to kill me. People are trying to frame me for murder.
All right, why don't we remove Mr. Loyd from the courtroom?
He clearly wasn't happy with his sentence, like most convicts. But what if an accused person begs for it? That was the strange case of Stephen Lorenzo. This is Stephen Lorenzo.
So I'm asking you to give me the death sentence because that'll be more comfortable for me to live out my lifetime.
He is charged with multiple homicides in Tampa Bay, Florida. According to police records, nearly 20 years ago, Lorenzo and accomplice Scott Schweikert killed Jason Galehouse and Michael Walcotts in his Seminole Heights house. Lorenzo and Schweikert enticed the victim to Lorenzo's house after making them inebriated at a bar. Police investigation stated that the cause of death for Galehouse and Walcott's was a blunt force injury to the head. Both Lorenzo and Schweikert would eventually be found guilty of the murders, after which they cut the victims to pieces and disposed of them in trash cans spread across Tampa. In court, Lorenzo was forced to face one of the victims' mothers.
And I can tell you right now, I am sick of my stomach just to have to look at your disgusting face. And you pulled away and you laughed about it. Laughed! What the hell is wrong with you? You are a sick person, and I wish to God somebody would cut you up in pieces, because that's what you deserve.
Judge Christopher Sabella would then ask Lorenzo the same questions everyone's wondering.
I just wanted to know why they're dead.
Mr. Schweikert wanted to have a video done of him having experience as a master he was trying, and I was videotaping it. Mr. Schweikert got carried away. He lost control. But anyway, he lost control. The kid started to scream and get all upset. We realized that the kid was going to probably call the police on all of us. So we had a powwow and we said, this kid can't leave. He's going to identify all four of us. So that was why the decision was made.
The judge was enraged at Lorenzo's lack of remorse for his crimes.
I cannot tell you how much what I hear from you infuriates me.
Before the sentence was read, Lorenzo had something to tell the judge. Nobody was prepared for what the murderer would say.
At my age, I want to be comfortable. So I'm asking you to give me the death sentence. I know I can be on death row for about 10 or 15 years, which I think is crazy. The sooner that I get euthanized, as far as I'm concerned, the faster I can get, the sooner I can fetch myself a new body and come back again.
To the shock of everyone in court, Stephen Lorenzo was intent on getting the death penalty. Would Judge Sabella grant the wish of the confessed murderer? Let's see.
And I don't know if what you say is perhaps some form of reverse psychology, nor do I care. I will not consider what you want in issuing my sentence. Ti condanno a morte. That translates to, I sentence you, Mr. Lorenzo, to death.
Lorenzo then thanked the judge.
Thank you, Your Honor. I
And
appreciate it.
Mr. Lorenzo, may God have mercy on your soul.
My soul is fine, thank you, sir.
While Lorenzo seemed satisfied with the sentence he has received, the same can't be said for Erica Mae Butts and Shanita Latrice Cunningham. Here are Shanita Latrice Cunningham and Erica Mae Butts in a North Carolina courthouse in Charleston. The couple is being charged with the death of Serenity Richardson. Serenity Richardson, a 3-year-old girl, was found dead in 2009, and it was later established that her own godmother, Erica, and her lover, Shanita, were to blame. Serenity was visiting Erica's home for 2 weeks when the incident occurred. It was revealed to the court that this wouldn't be the first time the woman had laid hands on Serenity. Actually, they often used belts and plastic coat hangers to beat the little girl. With the exception of her foot soles, every aspect of Serenity displayed proof of abuse. They attempted to resuscitate her with ice and bleach when she was unconscious. However, by the time the medics got there, Serenity had already passed away. The woman said that Serenity had a potty incident and that they were unaware that their actions would kill her. Not only was the assault horrific, but the courtroom drama added an extra dramatic touch to the case. The trial was an intensely emotional one. The two women passed out, cried incoherently, and began to hyperventilate as Judge Deidre Richardson read their sentences. They had to be picked up off the floor and wheeled out of court by court staff.
You would get credit for any of the time that you...
Court officials had to pick them up off the floor and wheel them out of the room.
But Erica and Shanita wouldn't be the only ones to collapse after being sentenced to death. This is Diana Lovejoy, a Carlsbad resident who was appearing in court on charges for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Lovejoy, a 44-year-old woman, made headlines in September 2016. She was convicted of the attempted murder of Greg Mulvihill, her ex-husband. Mulvihill was wounded in the side during the shooting, which took place in Carlsbad, California, on a dark dirt path. Lovejoy and Mulvihill's relationship became strained after a contentious divorce and protracted custody dispute involving their son. The source of this divorce was speculatively cheating on the side of Lovejoy. Lovejoy had met McDavid at his job at an Oceanside shooting range, and the two had an affair even though McDavid was married. The case made headlines. Lovejoy's fabricated allegations of violence against her ex-husband were brought before the court. The accusations were later proven to be false, only being used as a ruse to gain exclusive custody of their little son. Lovejoy had hired McDavid to provide proof of Mulvihill's abuse and carry out the shooting. You might think that this is an easy case, but wait till you hear Lovejoy and McDavid's defense. In the sentence hearing, Lovejoy and McDavid denied any involvement in a murder-for-hire scheme and said they had never planned to kill Mulvihill. Lovejoy said, her eyes welling with tears, that she would never take her son's father away from him.
It's so painful that some people in this world seem to think that I would have it in me to do this.
McDavid maintained that the jury had made a mistake and that Lovejoy had manipulated him into doing the shooting. He was adamant that with his expertise, he could shoot McDavid to death if he wanted to. In spite of their denials of guilt, the prosecutor contended that both were blaming others and denying responsibility for their own actions. Lovejoy's accomplice, Welton McDavid Jr., was given a 50-year sentence for pulling the trigger on the gun that shot Mulvihill, while Lovejoy was sentenced to 26 years to life in jail. Lovejoy collapsed on the table, shocked by her own sentence.
To commit murder.
May your wife and kids get
I would ask that you would point
right
to the office.
putting somebody who is
Aileen appeared in court on charges of killing 7 men in Florida. At just 14 years old, Aileen already had a criminal record. In addition to her multiple drug addictions, she was also expecting a child. She was kicked from home and left to fend for herself. She soon turned to selling her body for money, which eventually caused her a strong detest and hate for men. In 1989, she decided that it would be simpler to rob and kill her clients than to do what she was doing.
She tricked her victims by posing as a damsel in distress. The men thought they were helping her out. Either way, the second fact on which everyone agrees is that Aileen Wournos shot them dead.
Aileen had murdered 7 men in only a single year. She remained silent about it all until one day she told Tyria Moore, her romantic partner. Tyria Moore later turned on her and reported her to the police.
We were sitting on the floor watching TV, and she just come out and said, I have something to tell you. And I asked her what, and she said that she had shot and killed a man that day.
In 1991, Wournos was arrested after the authorities followed her to a sleazy bikers club. At first, Aileen denied the allegations. She asserted that the killings were committed in self-defense.
I am sorry that my acts of self-defense ended up in court like this, but I take full responsibility for my actions. It was them or me.
Was it self-defense?
Yes, but I can't tell anybody.
However, her argument was quickly debunked.
It was impossible to be a self-defense argument. We were able to prove that in several of them, the men were actually running away from her. They were shot in the back. In one instance, a man was prone on the ground. His vertebrae had been severed. He was paralyzed, and she shot him in the head from a downward angle.
Soon after she confessed,
Go ahead and put the electric chair to me. I should have never done it, she told police.
This was her sentencing.
I sentence you in case number 91-463 to death for the murder of Troy Burris. Case number 91-304, I sentence you to death for the murder of Charles Humphreys. Case number 91-112, Citrus County case number, I sentence you to death for the murder of David Spears.
Aileen received 3 death sentences, and the following were among the most repulsive words to be said in court ever.
May your wife and kids get
I would ask that you would point to the public office.
I know I was you ain't nothing but a bunch of scum.
Therefore, these proceedings are now
Putting
concluded.
somebody who is to death.